Thursday, April 4th, BYB returns to the Florida State Fairgrounds in Tampa, Florida for another hard-hitting night of bare-knuckle action in the patented Mighty Trigon. Cub Hawkins makes his first title defense of the Police Gazette World Diamond Belt when he faces Chad the Butcher Kelly for both the Police Gazette belt and the vacant BYB Cruiserweight title. Agnesa Kirakozian and Shelby Cannon face off for the inaugural BYB Super Flyweight title. Plus, explosive cruiserweights Yuli Monster Diaz and Zion Tomlinson battle in a title eliminator matchup. And former title contender Rashad Coulter goes toe-to-toe with Brazil's Levi Costa in a heavyweight showdown. Catch these and much more. Visit BYBExtreme.com for tickets and information.
Welcome to the Original Fighter's Voice. I'm your host, Don Mcguire. Bruh. Only bad thing about that commercial is I don't even think any of them fights are happening anymore.
Well, hey, it's a part of doing business, baby.
Yeah, it's the fight game. You know, a lot of people, they don't understand it, bro, and they don't realize that no matter what, it's out of your hands even at the last moment. Same with life, you know.
Hey.
That's why I love doing these shows, but you're here for a special show tonight, man. And
yes, sir.
I feel like I kind of let you down because, you know, us old dogs can't get this on the screen, but you know, I'll get it out there to you guys. You know, Burts finally got his book out.
There you go.
And I'll share it everywhere. Trust me, I'll share it in the European collection everywhere. Bro, I'm gonna get you out there. You know, the bottom line is
you know what? Hold that up again. Let me see that again. There you go. There you go. Pull it back a little bit. There you go. There you go, fans. There it is, right there. My new book, baby, Being Burt Watson, written and co-written by Burt Watson and D. Lockett. All you got to do is scan that code, and it'll take you right to the place, baby. Appreciate you, Don. There you go. That works just as well, baby.
Oh, I'm gonna get it out there no matter what, because you're my fam for life. You know,
yes, sir.
What does it feel like now for Burt Watson to finally put pen to paper and to finally have your life immortalized into a book?
Well, you know, it didn't really hit me until I started reading the manuscript for the book. The book comes out next month. I'm taking pre-orders for the book now, but I read through the manuscript. I'm rereading things and putting things together, and it's the amazing part is that I'm actually rereading the manuscript and putting things together that I can actually give words to. You know, I talk about my time with Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali and Layla Ali and Mike Tyson and George St. Pierre and Randy Couture and Ronda Rousey and Brock Lesnar, John Jones, Quentin Rampage Jackson, and Conor McGregor. And I put all of those times in, and when I sat down and started putting it together, I actually had a little story about each one of them that was easy, because as I started to write, the book is written by myself and a co-writer. Her name is D. Lockett, fantastic writer out of the Detroit area. And as we sat down and started writing, and she started asking questions, and you know, she did her homework at the beginning, but it's coming to point. And the one thing that it did was that it really resonated how much my mom had in my maturation, which is, everybody says that because your mom is always and your dad are responsible for raising you. But as I sat down and spoke to them, 100%, my mom was in everything I ever did because I can go back and I mean, there's a part in there, and I don't want to say too much of it, but there's a part in there where I really didn't have a selection in the college I went to. My mom just sat down one day and read. She was reading a book and saw something in the book, and she said to me, she said, "You know what? I'm getting you out of Philly," and that was it. I'm getting you out of Philly. And at my thinking, I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm gonna go to school in New Jersey or maybe in New York. Shit. My mom sent me to Scottsbluff, Nebraska, bro. Straight out of Philly to Scottsbluff, Nebraska. And that was, you talk about culture shock. And I had no say so in it. She told me to go ahead and fill out some paperwork and applied, and she wrote for this and wrote for that. I applied and got accepted. First time ever on a plane. I flew Frontier Airlines out there to Nebraska. I didn't even really know how to spell it.
Bro, I can't even picture you in Nebraska, bro. I'm sorry.
Dude, it was definitely cultural change. The only other people of color out there were Native Americans, and that was it. That was it. But it was definitely the start of my maturation, and funny, when you go to college and you get out, you're supposed to go to work and not go back home to your mom's. And I never went back to Philly since then. Not shortly after getting out of college, because I went right from there to the Marine Corps, and from the Marine Corps to New York to Joe Frazier. So it was
yeah.
Yes, sir.
From Joe Frazier to Levi Strauss and Company, and from Levi Strauss and Company to the UFC.
Yes, yes, sir.
If you people can go back, if you go back in the show, I'm gonna try to do this so where y'all can just pause it and scan it. This bothers me that I wasn't able to get this up here, but there we go, right there. Y'all should be able to scan that QR code and pre-order Burt's book, because not only did he live in the world of boxing, but he was a babysitter of the stars and created multiple aspects in the UFC, and everybody loved him. Burt, you gonna see if that's gonna work?
Guess what? It works.
Cool. So y'all be able to pre-order his book. So we good. I was gonna feel horrible, but let's get on a couple comments, because I'm gonna get really deep with you tonight, because I'm intrigued about this book, because trust me, I'm the only person that's ever interviewed you that got you out your seat and said, "I'm done. You the police."
Yeah, the stuff that you knew. I'm like, wait a minute. You started rattling off stuff, and I'm listening, and in the back of my head, I'm looking around to see if I had that stuff written on the wall. Because it was too on point.
Yeah.
But no, it's definitely exciting to have my story putting into my own words, into a book that hopefully everybody's going to enjoy, and get a copy and just kind of hit me up for more. But I'm definitely excited and honored, and I'm honored.
Yeah, bro, because your walk is tremendous. And I mean, the crazy thing about it is, and I know you won't take the credit for this, but I wouldn't be an 8-time Hall of Famer in this industry if it wasn't for Burt Watson.
Wow.
See, there's very few people that changed my life. And I mean, don't get it wrong, people. We get in trouble, you know. But Bert will tell you, man. In this industry, ain't nobody want to give you help. You know, they always too jealous or too scared that you're gonna come up on them or something. So, especially the boxing world, you know, you ask for help, it ain't gonna come. You're gonna have to learn on your own. Bert was one of the few people on my walk that ever even looked at me or even gave me the time of day. Most people don't even want to do that. People,
Yeah.
they don't understand that.
Mostly, you know, they want you to work hard and want to pay you and don't want you to mess up or don't want to give you help. And that's as you're saying, that's just the way it is. But you know, it's like that in every walk of life. When you get to a point that if you're not working for yourself and you're not still in school getting educated, that's life. That's the way it's going to be. And I write about that because I don't want anybody to ever think, you know, that, oh, it's going to get easier, oh, it's going to get better, you know, some of those things, because it doesn't get easier. It gets better, but it doesn't get easier. It's hard first, and it stays hard, and it just switches into neutral. That's all it does, baby. Nothing else.
Let me get through some of these comments. My brother from Atlanta, Giovanni Cavazzoni, says, my friends, much respect. Much respect to you, brother. My brother out
Yes,
of
sir.
Canada, Brian, I know you better buy one of these books. Go back and scan that code. He says, hello, Don and Bert. Tremendous brother of mine out of Canada. And then from the BKFC, Rick Caruso says, two legends. Appreciate that,
Wow.
brother.
Wow. Yes, sir.
And then Giovanni says, Bert, congratulations on your book. Gee, thank you for sharing your story with us. And then I think you might know Paul Driscoll. They call him Little Holmes,
Yes.
biggest Larry Holmes
Yes.
fan in the world.
You know what? I communicate with Paul on Facebook and social media. But I know exactly who he is. And as a matter of fact, I'm Paul has the picture from Champions Forever
Autographed. Yeah.
on his Facebook, and he had everybody autograph it. And when I saw it, kudos to you, Paul, because I know every one of those signatures, and I know if they real or not. So kudos to you, bro. You know,
And
yes, sir.
one of the greatest men to come on my walk lately, John Grady. He says, two legends. What a gift to observe this great discussion. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, brother. What would you like to say to John Grady? He's a tremendous psychologist and I mean, one of the best people I've ever met.
Wow, psychologist. Well, I'll tell you something, John. It's a pleasure to hear somebody's taking the time to share themselves with others to make themselves a better person. I'm always fond of people that do that. And in psychology, I'm sure you do that daily. And I'll tell you what, you buy my book, I want to know what your psychological thoughts of Burt Watson are. Okay, I want to hear it. When I come back on his show, I just killed two birds with one stone. I just tried to sell my book, and I just told you that when I come back on your show, I'd like to hear it.
I'll tell you what, John, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe John helped write the Jerry Cooney book. So
Is that right? Wow.
Oh yeah, I'll hook you guys up. He's yeah, bro. He's real.
Jerry Cooney.
Jerry Cooney. Chris J. Steinbeck says the best hype man, Burt Watson. You know, it's funny because I'm glad this book came out. Because before I started bringing you on my show, not many people affiliated that weren't in the loop, but not many people didn't affiliate you with boxing. And it pissed me off, bro. I was so mad. I'm like, are you kidding me? This dude.
Well, you know, it's you have to really know me to know my history, kind of, because when I transitioned to MMA exploded so big, so fast that it overshadowed everything else. And there was a time up until I'd say 2007 when I was still working with the Klitschko brothers, and MMA was hitting it, but I was getting more work from MMA than I was boxing, because that's kind of when boxing started to kind of fade down a little bit, and actually it was Mike Tyson whose name and persona brought it all out and kept everybody focused and attention for either Mike to do something or somebody to come along to stop Mike, or to be Mike all over again. So he definitely reinvented the whole wheel, if there can be such a thing. He absolutely did it, because I think after Sugar Ray and Oscar De La Hoya started to go down a little, and then Roy Jones kind of brought it up a little bit, but Tyson kept it up here and kept everybody's ear to the ground when it comes to boxing. So it's and that was probably around the time, because I think the last fight I did with Mike, I think was in 2001, in Washington D.C. Out of it, Mike was 50-2, and I worked maybe 10 or 12 of Mike's fights across the board. And the first time I met Mike was in 1999, when he fought Buster Mathis Jr. was when I met Mike. And I was a coordinator, and I was the coordinator. So I was used to getting guys in and kind of not telling them what to do, but just kind of telling them what was going to happen and that it was going to happen. Okay, if we scheduled something for you, I need you to be on time. Now, athletes have the worst watches and timetable of anybody. I mean, seriously. So when I first got Mike, I started telling him what was going on and what it was going to be and how it was going to be done. And Mike kind of sat back and gave me that look. And I think for the first time, Don, I realized what every opponent Mike Tyson had saw when they stepped in that ring in front of him, because I saw it, and it gave me goosebumps. And I was like, oops. I felt it, and I knew right away. I said, maybe I should come back and later let Don King tell him exactly who I am, and then I'll come back and I'll jump in front of it. But that was a crazy experience, but an awesome experience, because he was a young kid, but he was running through everybody.
Yeah,
running through them.
I'm gonna get through a couple more of these because I want to go deep tonight, man. A young boxer out of California. God, come on. Nate Wren says, Burt Watson, that's the guy who was Joe Frazier's manager. People have no idea how important business manager or a site coordinator is for combat sports. You have the nerves of steel or ice water in your veins. You really got to, bro.
Thank you, boss.
I've been a site coordinator. I've ran Jackson Wink as a vice president. I was in charge of all the directors, and
yes.
Man, I can't even feel half the shoes that you got on, bro. And it's like, I'm sitting here because I talk to my friends and they think very highly of you, and we still don't know how you do it. And I know this sport, you don't decide when to leave this sport. This sport decides when you leave. You don't decide.
Yes,
but
I agree with that.
I'm going to say it right here, right now, because I've been wanting to say it for a long time. I don't think you've ever gotten the appreciation that you have truly earned, deserved, and been given because, bro, if anybody just knew a tenth of what I knew about you, they would appreciate you, man, because people don't get it, man. They don't understand that. Okay, let's just take boxing out of it right now because we've talked
Yes.
so much about boxing. Let's take us to a UFC event. You know, if the
Sure.
fighters ain't in bed by 10, who's on them? Mr. Burt Watson. When they screwing up and the hotel manager call, who got to take care of it no matter what time in the morning it is?
You're
Mr. Burt
lying.
Watson. I mean, we've worked events together where you were the site coordinator and I was just helping you. And I was winded and I'm looking at his ass is older than me. How the hell he doing? And I was tired. It's that passion.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
love.
yeah. And it's also in the shoes, baby. Okay?
Yeah.
You got to wear the right
But let
kit.
me ask you this. Let me ask you this. How many kids does Burt Watson truly have?
How many kids?
And not hypothetically, you know what I'm saying? You know, how many of these people?
I know what you're saying. And you know what? I actually have a number on that. And I've worked 513 fights in my career. And I've walked 7,382 fighters from the dressing room to the ring, the cage, and the octagon, and the trigon. So that's how many kids I've got, because everybody I've taken that walk with, I've walked them from the dressing room to that cage, the ring, the octagon, or the trigon, as if I was a dad walking my son or my daughter to school for the first time. Yeah. And each time, that's exactly how I felt when I took that walk. But I do have that number, and I keep that number, and I'm going to keep that number until I'm done. And I'm, I don't even like to think about that, because it's a passion, man. But the passion came from me seeing how some promoters were mistreating fighters. And I'm not ashamed to say that, bro, because I saw that. And when I saw it, I jumped in it, because I wanted the fighter to feel that there was more to him than just coming to an event and getting out there and fighting and maybe getting knocked out or maybe knocking somebody out and then having to have to go home. And nobody cared, really. And when I say they cared, but not like I thought they should have cared. There was a time I had to, one kid came to me, and I think I've told this story to you before, but back in the day when I was around at a time where you only got $30 a round to fight. $30 a round, people. And I did a fight with this one kid. Now, you figure $30 a round, 4 rounds. That's easy math. And that kid's medicals were $55. And they wanted him to pay his medicals out of his little bit of money he got. And he came to me and he said, Mr. Burt, he didn't have enough money for gas to get home. I said, didn't they give you, traveling money? And he told me what they gave him. Don, I said, you know what? I had $110 on me. And luckily I had it in 20s and a 10. I didn't have to get, it wasn't in 100 or a 50. But only people that carried big bankrolls carry around 150s. Okay. But I said to that kid, I said, you know what? Here you go. And I gave him $80. And at that point, I said, I will never, ever be affiliated with another event that a fighter gets mistreated like that. But then I had to figure out how to way to get that across to a promoter. And I did, because I talked about it and I told them about it. And I spoke up right away that, I would accept this job and I'm going to take this job, but I'm not going to sit around and see a fighter be mistreated, especially if he goes out there and get knocked out. And then he's got to come back and get that little bit of money holding his eye to go home. So that gave me my passion. It made me pay more attention to details. And then, a lot of people, when they see a tree with stuff on it, and this is a birdism, they want to jump on it and climb to the top, not knowing that the safest place is on the bottom.
Amen.
But they're on it.
That's so true. That's just so true. Bill Stacks, another gentleman that does podcasts, he says, "Hey, Don and Burt, what's up, brother?
What's up, baby?"
And then Nate Wren said, "When is the National Boxing Hall of Fame going to wake up and induct Burt Watson and Buddy Mcguire?" Bruh, I'm trying. See, before we get deep in the book, before we get deep in the book, I just want to see. That's what hurts me in life. I'm going into nationals this year, but I don't feel like I rightly deserve it over somebody like you. And the political aspect of this sport, it's just mind blowing, because I see a man that I look up to. I see a man that I epitomize. I see a true legend. Yes. And I'm like, where do I freaking rate? I mean, I'm honest. I'm humble and I tell it like it is. The problem with me is, like, people like you have created history. People like you have created the path for people like me to walk on to create my own history. And I'm sorry, but it pisses me off when the sport has to be so damn cliche. And it's not right, bro. It's just, see, the problem is I speak up too much. And
you think you do speak up, but that's a good thing. And let me tell you something, baby. Never, ever, ever think that you do or you don't deserve. It's always that you're supposed to have. Plain and simple. If you think, well, I deserve this, or I don't deserve this, or it's under. If they give it to you, you're supposed to have it. Plain and simple. And accept it. Let them bring it.
Let me ask you this, though.
Yes.
We the same, because I walked into this sport to help fighters.
Yes.
That's all I came. I didn't come into this sport to be famous. I didn't come into the sport for glory. I came into the sport to give back to those, because people don't understand. They say, why do you put the fans first? Well, if there wasn't no fans, there wouldn't be no fights.
No.
No. Then comes the fighters. Then comes everything else. So I always pay homage to the fans, the fighters, the people like you and me that work in the back. People say, Don, why do you have these people on your show? Well, you know what? Without them, this world wouldn't exist. And this is where I want to talk about your book. How much of the blood, sweat, and tears are on those pages in your book, Burt? Because you're a prevalent individual. You created history multiple times. You've got more stories than a Webster's dictionary. You got more sagas than Netflix. How hard is it for someone like you to encapsulate all that you've done into a book?
Well, it's again, it's my first time, and it's so much an honor. But then I sat down with this ghostwriter, D. Lockett, and we started talking, and we were recording everything that I was saying. And as we got to a certain point, she would tell me, just off of her past history, how many pages we were at just about, or we were going to be at. And the one thing that I didn't want to do was that I never wanted a book that was thick as this. Okay. Because I said to myself, I want to try to put something together that's easy reading, and knowing most fighters and most people in our industry, they don't like bulky things that they got to take around or lug around. They like easy reading when they get on a plane, when you're sitting in the airport or sitting in your hotel room. And that's not a big, thick book. So that's when I really realized, because when I started talking and putting it together, it just kind of kept going and going. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I realized where we were, and I said, you know what, D, we got to pull that back to looking like this. And she was telling, I said, well, how thick would a book be with not through the number of pages that we actually were at? And when she said it to me, we kind of had to remanuscript that and kind of pull that in to condense it. It's a lot. It's a lot. But then I also think, Don, when I think about it, my first step into combat sports or meeting Joe Frazier or all those things started in 1986.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago to put things in perspective of what I could write, what I could put down. And the one thing that I do have is that there was a point I was documenting the things that I was doing and where I was going, and then I lost track of that. Then I started back again. But I got a stack of paper like this with stuff on it that I wrote, and I forgot why I wrote it. Okay, and I looked at it and I'm like, what the hell did I write this for? So that's the only good thing that I did, because I do have few notes and things that little things that happened, and I remember. Tell you a quick one, because I'm trying to sell a book here, baby. I remember the first time I met Brock Lesnar and how massive he was, how big of a person he was, and I'm not going to tell you all of it, but just the little that when he was time for his first weigh-in, Brock Lesnar walked up on the stage, and was the first time that I saw him with his shirt off to get on the stage, to get on the scale. And he pulled that shirt off, and he has a tattoo of a sword across his chest. The handle is here, and the sword is down here. Brock was so big and so massive, that sword looked like I could take it off of him and start dueling. That's how big, that's how big that sword was. Little things like that I capsulated, and it's in here, and I put that in there. You'll have to read the book to read the rest of it, but just that little tidbit about Brock Lesnar and that sword, I will never forget that. But he was so big, I looked like I could just take that sword off his chest and just start dueling with it, because he was that big. But those are things like that, with John Jones and George St. Pierre, the little things, and I've had conversations with everybody I've ever worked with at some point. I may not remember everybody, but and I did that math with you with 7,280 something. If you average or take even 450 fights, and each one of them had a minimum of 20 guys on it, do that math. Because a minimum fight back in my day was like 13 fights on there. Boxing and MMA, 13, and as much. The most I've ever done was 23 fights on one card.
Yeah.
But
See, when I did the UK Domination Series, we did 28 fights on the first day, 28 fights on the second day, and then we finished things up on the third day. But that's from morning till night. People don't understand.
Yeah.
And then you take like me and you when we go back to no holds barred, because I'm just like you. I had to leave boxing and came into the MMA realm because it didn't pay the bills in boxing at the time. And so, I used to watch guys fight 3 times a night for $800 to $1,000, and sometimes,
Wow.
Like Dan Severn and all them, no holds barred. It's like no time limits, no nothing. And like Matt Hughes was just on my show. His first fight, he got paid $100.
Yep. Well,
and I tried to get you on that show, man. He wanted you on there. He said, "Man, I love me some Elmer, bro."
Elmer.
And I was like, "You're the only man that can get away with that."
Do you know why he called me Elmer?
Yeah, because you're the only one that holds everything together.
Yeah. Wow. Don, did you see that on the wall back there? You got your stuff together. But it's 100%, man. It's you gotta listen and not just hear the fighters, because when you hear stuff, it hits your ear, it bounces over your head. Sometimes it hits the ground or just goes in one and out the other. But when you listen, you digest it, you ingest it, and you remember it. So I first learned the difference between the two, and I learned to listen. Now, to my detriment at times, because when you get to talking and guys get to talking about certain things, and some things you don't want to hear. And I'm not talking about raunchy stuff. Just things that sometimes you'd be at an event that somebody was there and their family wasn't there. And I never asked that. I learned not to ask that question unless it was brought up and discussed with them. But there were times, there's one in my mind that I don't want to. I'm not going to say the name, and I'm talking to you, and I've just thought of 2 things that I'm going to add to that book. Okay. But I remember talking to a fighter that was telling me about how bad his relationship was with his family. And specifically his dad. And sadly, it ended up one killing the other. And then killing himself. Now, I'm sure if somebody Googles, they'll look, but man, that was, and I listened to that fighter, and I always tried to tell him, how he needed to kind of back up and think a little more about things, or stop thinking about them until he felt better about it. Because when you think about something and it's not in a good place, you're not going to think of nothing good about it. But so I always sat and listened to fighters and what they had to say.
When people get this book, how much? I know when you do everything, you do it with 100% passion. How much of Burt Watson is exposed in this book?
That's a good question. It was me sitting down talking about me. It wasn't somebody else sitting down and writing a book about Burt Watson. It was somebody that sat down and talked to me and let me explain me in certain things. So every bit of it is passionate because it came from my words, my thoughts, and my heart. So all of it was. And I am, out of everything I've ever done, this for me is probably, you always wonder, like, I had a hand in creating some things for the UFC, like red and blue tape. I did that. The gloves. There was initially the UFC glove was a big glove with an elastic wristband on it. And when and they brought them in there and gave it to me. These are our new gloves. Look how nice they look. And when guys got their hands wrapped, I couldn't get that damn thing on certain people. Now you got to get the book to find that out. But you know what? I said, cut that damn wristband. They cut the wristband and the glove did this. The next set of gloves, the next set of gloves we had did this. Okay? Because they took that and ran with it. Those things that I will never get real recognition for or credit for, and no one knew, and no one has ever known until they hear me say it now. But when I sit down and write it, and now I can put some of those things on paper that my grandson, grandkids, or great grandkids, because I'm almost at that point with great grand right now. My oldest grandson is 27. So, I'm getting there. So they'll have that whenever they want to. Pop's book is on that shelf. Pop wrote a book. Wrote a book, yes. So
I want to get to this one comment because it really just, man, I'm behind on comments, but I get caught up, bro, because people don't understand what you're saying is from the heart. You're not like just any. I'm not saying everybody that comes on my show or anybody in life is that way, but when Burt Watson is on, it's 100% real, or it ain't nothing at all, baby. I mean, just like we rolling, you're gonna get it all night long.
All night long.
But John Grady, my friend that helped with the book with Jerry Cooney, says, I must say, listening to this interview, I find myself wanting to be a much better person. Thank you both for the inspiration. Burt, I'll let you take this one.
Well, John, as I said to you, as a psychologist, the best thing that you do is that you listen to people every day, daily, and you listen to their hearts and their thoughts. And usually most of what you get is a person's thought until you sit down and start putting it together with them, and then you start to get their heart through their thoughts. So it's a pleasure for me to hear that, because it always gives me pleasure when I hear that I inspired someone and they were really listening to what I was saying, and that I wasn't just chatter, because I can chatter when I have to now. I can run my mouth. And Don, I will tell you that this is, and I ain't trying to stroke you, but I enjoy sitting down and chatting with you. And this is my first interview. I've got one tomorrow and but I got interviews where I could not turn them down anymore, because I put that code out there for my book. And if you remember, I called you and I said, Don, we got to talk, because I didn't want to jump on with somebody else before I got with you. And I wanted to give you and your fans, put that code up there again, bro. I wanted to give you and your fans the first crack at me and my book, and there you go, and that works. So I wanted to give you the first crack at it, Don. So before I got with anybody else, it was coming.
See, all they got to do is go back
scan that
and
code.
scan it.
Scan that code. You get a yellow bar on the bottom, and it'll tell you where to go to pre-order. Being Burt Watson, written and co-written by Burt Watson and D. Lockett, baby.
Oh yeah, and you know I'll have that. Isn't that righteous? I'll have that on my page as well, because
excellent.
Burt's been in my life for a long time. But let me ask you, Chris J. Steinberg, I think it was funny because you did kind of nonchalantly do that. He said, "Can't believe Burt nonchalantly made a Mike Tyson ear joke. This is the reason people put their ear on the ground."
If I was back then, boss man, he wasn't biting. Okay, he was just giving you that stare down. That was, and I've seen that stare down on just about every walk fighter I've ever taken, because I walk a fighter to the holding area, and then I turn around and I get face to face, and I say to them that this is what we do and why we do it. Ain't but two, him and you. You need to go get that done, son. And I don't say it that calmly, or I use a few more adjectives in there, expletives when I say it. But I do that, and I'm going to tell you the look that I get from everybody. That it's amazing to me when I think about it, and I think about how. And one time and I'm gonna mention his name. I was Uriah Faber, and I don't remember exactly who he was fighting, but I went up to him and I was psyching him up and I was hyping him up. And I was telling him about this is what we do and why we do it. Ain't but two, him and you, all night long. This is how we roll, and when you walk from here to there, you better not come back here with your head down, son. And he just got like this, and he said, yeah. I said, yeah. And I threw my hand up for him to give me a high five. Oh, he gave me a high five. He had the glove on his hand, and he gave me that boom. I didn't know that man had that much power, man. That tingled from here and went all the way down and up to my brain. That I said, I'll never do that one again. I was walking around like this all night long from Uriah Faber giving me that high five, because he was so hyped up. He said, bam! I was like, oh, go! He took me to the
I did that with John Jones. I was shooting one of his training camps, and John joked around and went like that with his elbow into my side. I don't even want to say. I just
they don't know their own strength, and when they get excited and they give you that kind of greeting or that kind of excitement or that kind of motivation, they have no idea of the strength that they're putting out when they do that.
When Tim Sylvia gave me a hug, bro, let me tell you, he about popped my head off, But Burt, how much of this book would you say, is it a 50-50 boxing MMA, or is it just a pleasure of Burtisms, special walks, special moments?
It's 50-50 MMA and boxing. It's Burtisms. It's special walks. It's special time with special people, and a look into exactly how I got to where I am now in terms of Burt, my family, my mindset, my game plan, and my commitment. And it's I tried to encapsulate all that, as I said to you, in a small, I don't want a thick book. If I put everything that I said, and I hope they come out with it as I asked them. The book's released in April, next month, because this is the end of March. But it's 50-50 in terms of boxing and MMA because of the people that I started my combat sports career. I was fortunate and privileged. Who in the world starts their career with Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali?
Nobody.
Doesn't happen. And that happened to me. So that's how I was able to start my boxing. And it was enough between those two and Mike Tyson that did my boxing. And that was enough, 50. And the rest of it, I went to MMA, and the guys in MMA, I mean, to see them grow, and the ones that I could put in the book, and I'll tell you, it's I put that code out, and I put that little teaser out that the book was up for pre-sale, and everybody, two things they asked me. Well, three things. Am I in it? When is it coming out? And when do I get my copy? And my answer to them is, if you honor me by buying a copy, you'll see it and read it and you'll hear it. But there's no way in the world that I could, if I put everybody in that's supposed to be in there, it would be one of 7 editions. Because it's and there's so many people that I can definitely say had a hand in my career, like yourself and other journalists and other fighters and even promoters that gave me a shot. Mike Tyson, Don King Mike Tyson and Buster Mathis were supposed to be in Atlantic City, in New Jersey. Yeah. But the New Jersey Casino Commission has some kind of kerfluffle, that's a Burt word, some kind of kerfluffle with Don King. So they wouldn't let him have that fight in Atlantic City, but didn't tell him until a month before the fight. How do you take a Mike Tyson fight a month before and cancel it based on the pre-sales of all his fights and whatever? So that fight was moved from New Jersey to Philadelphia. And I got the phone call from Don King to be the coordinator. Well, I got the call from somebody working in Butch Lewis' office that told them that Don King was trying to find my number because he didn't have it. Even though I worked with him, he didn't have my number. And that's how I got that call and got that job in Philadelphia. And that's how things happen. And that was my first meeting of Mike Tyson and first job working with Mike Tyson. And that's because they couldn't do the fight in Jersey. They told John, they had him kind of, well, everybody knows Don King's story. He was always under investigation, and how much of it was true, I don't know. But was he a bad person? No. Was he a street hustler? Yeah. And anybody from the streets is a hustler, and they talk a certain way and act a certain way, and that's just the way it is. It's like going into the gym. Everybody in that gym has a certain attitude and they work a certain way. And the first time somebody came in the gym and tried to tweak that, they were out of that gym real quick.
Yeah. Can I add to that? Because it's like, I've worked for Don King. Matter of fact, just about 4 months ago, Don Dantes Green called me and we were trying to work something out with Don. Ira Stephen Glass, is even trying to still work with me. But
Ira Glass?
Don's, yeah, Ira Stephen Glass.
Wow.
But see, me and you go back, so it's like people don't. So I've been here for 40 freaking years, and people think
Ira Glass.
they think that I'm just a photographer and a radio show host. They don't even know what I really do, Bert. It's like, just like we broke out tonight. I was a vice president for Jackson Wink. I was in charge of all their agents and directors worldwide. Come on, this is the biggest gym in the entire world.
Yeah.
And I basically ran it, and it's like, is it the same gym now that it used to be? No. But see, the thing about my life is I don't think everybody has a right to know the full me. How much of this book exposes the real Burt Watson?
Well, I'm as I said right now, I'm reading the manuscript and I wanted to expose the real Burt Watson. And I can tell you this, based on the question that you're asking me, it exposes Burt Watson. Plain and simple. Because every bit of the book comes from my heart. Every bit of it is true. Every bit of it is a life experience. And it's not anything that I had to make up or think about or anything. There's nothing that's going to be in there that somebody can say that didn't happen or question that. Nothing.
See, the reason I love that is because if you tell the truth, see, in this industry, I'm going to give everybody the number one clue to succeed in this industry. If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember the lie.
You know what's crazy? I just said what you just said. I say it, but I say it. If you tell the truth, you don't have to explain a lie, baby. Plain and simple, and that shows how much we think together or think alike.
Well, you have to in this industry. You have to.
Well, because everybody's going to fact check you or back check you or wondering if you're telling the truth because so many people are not truthful with it.
I hid my Hall of Fames. I did everything because the top of the sport is lonely. Is there a part in your book that talks about the UFC where people question your integrity, your ethics?
Yeah. Oh, Don, boy, you know your stuff. Yeah. I that's in there. That's in there as to, my time with the UFC and my time without the UFC. I had to put that in there because that's something that's a part. That was a big transition in my life. That was bigger than I knew it was. Because not until then, when I walked away, and that'll be in the book, so make sure you get a copy. When I walked away from the UFC and why I walked away, and not until I walked away did I realize how many people thought about it or had an opinion of it. Because when that happened, man, for 3 months I didn't answer my phone, and half of the numbers that called I didn't recognize. And every fighter that I had in my phone called. Every one of them. Every single one whose number I had, I got a call. In the first 3 months, I had enough. The only people that never asked me why or questioned it was my family, my immediate family. Because they knew that if I walked away from something, whether it looked like it might be a mistake to do so, or they knew that I had reasons. But everybody called and everybody was asking and everybody was questioning. And I saved face because I never mentioned that person's name that I had a disagreement with, and I'm not mentioning his name in this book.
No,
He ain't going down with me.
No, and actually, I was one of the first shows that you actually opened up and talked about this situation. You
Yes.
didn't mention his name then, and
Yeah.
you know, ain't no need. See, that's the thing about this. It's beautiful because we can hold the cards in our hand,
Yeah.
but we ain't got to expose the deck, you know, because
Ooh.
we already know where we've been, what we've accomplished, and the reason I ask because I know in this book, man, I want a copy of this book so bad because I know it's going to take me from that car accident with Smoking Joe Frazier, all the way through boxing.
Wow. Wow. It starts with that. But you know what? I on advice from my co-author and my ghostwriter, did not want me to use the word jackass when referring to a person. Because that's the name I had when I was talking about it. I was that jackass, never mentioning that name.
Yeah.
Only person I think I ever really mentioned that name to was my wife. But
that's all it needs to know.
Yeah, I figured a way to say it in the book, close to jackass as I could get it. But yes, that's a critical part of it.
Yeah, let me ask you one question because I got a few more comments and then we're gonna wrap up. But
okay.
The only story that has ever really disturbed me, and me and you were in this story, the Biloxi story. Does that play a role in this? Because here we are, we're not in the 50s, we're not in the 60s, we're in 2022, and or was it 20? You know, and yet we get thrust back in time. I mean, to be honest with you, I felt like I got thrown 30 years back in that moment.
Yeah.
Well, and
you know what, Don? I don't have to say anything about that or explain anything about that because we all know the history of our history.
Yeah,
and this is 2024, and it's going down like that. The only thing that I mentioned in that, close to that, was that when Layla Ali fought Muhammad Ali, I think that I was probably the first African American or black man that did fights and worked with father and daughter combination. That's the first time that's ever happened. And it was also one of the few times that Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier were together at a boxing match, other than something that was paid for and coordinated by the network. So that's the only time I ever kind of got close to something like that. But other than that, no. Times like that, the only thing that I'm going to give time like that to in my thought is my reason for leaving the UFC. But Biloxi and things like that, I can thank you for the respect that you give me or gave me, or standing up for your boy. But I don't want to give credence to stupidity. Stupidity.
You know, see, I can't wait.
I can go that route, man. Shit, I was born in 1979. You know, I've spent all my summers, even when my family moved to Philadelphia in 1953. And we were old enough to get in a car or get on a train. We spent every summer in the South. So that's all through the rest of the 50s and the 60s, and I got every bit of it. But you know what? I ain't gonna waste my time putting my time on that.
Yeah, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
And we'll get things, and I'll get these questions out of the way. So I buy this book. I open it. I read it from to front to back. Will I know the man in the mirror?
Yes, you will.
Amen.
And that's why,
bruh, these people need to buy this book. Because they only hold on 1 second, because they only get to see the small tidbits of stories on social media and in videos. I've got to live them. I've got to be there in those moments. And people, I'm not trying to sell my homeboy's book. Honestly, I mean, I would, but I'm telling you right now, the stories that just I've been through and know parts of, you got to get the book. Trust me, I'm gonna buy the book, and I want to.
I'm gonna give you a little more tidbits because you just brought it up and you said it. But I got a spot in there where I say the man in the mirror is on the front of the book.
Oh, love that.
So yes, you will. That's why that was something that the writer kind of said to me when we were talking about the cover, and she said, "You know what?" And I said to her, I said, "You know what? Outside of probably boxing and maybe MMA, nobody would really know who I am. But you know what? You pick a book up sometimes when you see a person's face and you look at it. Most of the books people pick up, the man in the mirror is on the cover of the book. All I'm gonna say, my man, you brought that.
I'm gonna do it one more
home.
time. Yeah. Because I want people to be able.
There you go.
Get that. And I'll be sharing it on my page. Yeah, I'll be sharing it on my page also too. Man, bro, I owe you the world, bro. How can you thank me?
You scan that right now. It'll come up with that yellow barcode. Appreciate you, Don.
Bro, I'm gonna put it on my page, but I'm just gonna get these good gentlemen waiting. Steve Schroeder says, Burt Watson. I know the answer, but he says, Burt Watson, who was your favorite fighter to work with? I already know, but
I'm gonna say Joe Frazier.
Yeah, that's what I felt.
That was my man.
My brother out of Canada, he says, the legendary Burt Watson, I love your show, Don. Much love and respect from Canada. Hey, much love and respect to you. Buy the book, brother. I know.
Appreciate you, Mr. McDonald.
Yeah. And my brother Brian Halderson says, facts. See, I'm going to tell the story before we leave real quick. This young man, I look at him like he's my son. And I'm trying to teach him. And one day, you know how moms and dad gets in arguments and this and that. I said, you need to stay out of it, bro. Ain't none of your business. He said, but that's my mom. I said, bro, it ain't your business. He said, what do you mean? I said, bro, you need to let your dad lean. I said, you need to let him be the man that he is. I said, him and your mama get in a fight. That ain't your business. You need to let your daddy lean and handle his business.
Wow.
And he listened to me, and it changed his life.
I see it right there. Let him lean. Wow. That's awesome. Well, you have that kind of effect on people, Don. I mean, because everybody that knows you probably wonders, like I do, how, I say to myself, how in the world and where does he find the strength that he has with the things that he has to endure, or the things that are there right now that are part of his everyday life. I always, and that's why I always say to you, you said to me once, man, I don't know why, or I this, and I said to you, let him go. Just stand back and let them drop it in your lap, bro. Don't question why. Don't question who. Let it go. If they put you in 90 times, let it go. Okay?
Yeah, you did.
Take that, because you only get what they want to give you. You never get what you deserve. Because I want anybody listening to think that and to listen to that. You're never going to get what you deserve, what you think you deserve, but you're always going to get what they want to give you. So let it go. And whatever it comes your way is what it is.
I think the part for me is, I agree with you wholeheartedly, but the part for me that's been the hardest is I never wanted to be famous. I never wanted to be anything, but you told me, Don, the sport's going to shine a light on you. You don't know how long it's going to burn or whatever, but just let. But see, what people don't know is lonely at the top. I'm gonna tell y'all fact. It's just lonely at the top. You think that you're hated being a part of this sport? Get to the top. But the part
Yeah.
that I take away the most is no matter what, I'm the only photographer that's inducted multiple times in MMA. I've also got the Combative Sports Pioneer Award, which has only been given out like 8 or 9 times.
Wow.
But on the other hand, I've been inducted. This will be my 4th induction into boxing. I'm the only photographer in the history of combat sports ever to be inducted into both sports or both genres. I'm the only one to ever be inducted this many times. I'm not in any local, regional. I'm only in global, international, and national Hall of
Now
Fame.
let me just interject in the middle of that. Do you deserve that, or are you supposed to get it?
I earned it.
There you go. You're supposed to get it.
But see, the reason I did it that way is because I want
Absolutely.
people to understand that I worked my ass off for 40 years. Pardon my French, but I did. I worked my behind off for 40 years. But the man sitting in front of me, I want to know, do you conclude your book this way because you're inducted into the International Sports Hall of Fame?
Yes,
That's
sir.
all sport. That's all
Yeah.
sports combined.
Yeah.
Every genre you can imagine. I mean, even curling's in that Hall of Fame. So only very few get into this Hall of Fame. Does the book conclude on the induction of Burt Watson?
Yes. And it the cover you saw there that said being Burt Watson, written by Burt Watson, and under the Burt Watson picture, it has International Sports Hall of Fame. It has that on there. And I'm that's the International Sports Hall of Fame. I'm satisfied. I'm good.
Hey,
I'm
that's
good.
That's at the Arnold Classic by Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, I'm gonna tell this one story, and I apologize if I can't get to your comments, but this story was one of the greatest stories in my walk in the history of the sport. It was 7:30 in the morning. I hear my phone ding. It was 8:30 for you, but I look over and I see the poster for Burt Watson being inducted into the International Sports Hall of Fame.
Wow.
And then 10 minutes later, I get a phone call from the one and only. And that day sits in my heart because, see, I know what it's like to walk this sport. It's a lonely walk. People say they're your friends. People claim to be your partners. But at the end of the day, there ain't nobody there. I'm gonna be real about this sport. It ain't glitz and glamour like y'all think it is. Yeah, it's what you create. But take away from those moments like Burt had with the fighters, with the certain people, and enjoy that, because at the end of the day, if you think the sport is going to carry you, then you a fool.
Yes, sir.
If you carry the sport, you carry the fighters, ain't nobody can say that. I'm like Burt. The fighters love me, so promotions can't touch me. If you love by the fighters, ain't
Yeah.
nobody can say nothing to you. And this is
Yes,
the
sir.
godfather. This is the godfather of our sport. This is the man that created the walk that I walk. It's people like you, Burt. I'm glad you finally put your story on paper because, man, I look up to you, bro. These people in this sport, they've only seen a small inkling of who you are. And the only way they're really going to know you is to get this book.
To get that.
This book,
Wow.
I guarantee you, this
Appreciate
book
that.
is going to make y'all cry. It's going to make y'all cry.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. And you know what? The only way that they open the door is if you knock on it.
Yep.
Plain and simple. That's the only way that door is going to open. So you knock, you kick it down, you bam on it, somebody will open it. But not because you just stood there doing nothing and wait for somebody to open it for you. Knock on it. It'll open. And if it doesn't open, knock on it again and keep knocking.
Yeah. I'm gonna get these out of the way and we'll wrap up. My brother Vincent Sante from the Philippines. He says, love it, big respect. Bill Stacks from Connecticut, I believe. He says, this is a great episode, Don. Nah, it ain't the episode, it's the guest. And then Steve Schroeder says, I gotta buy this book. Yeah, you do, bro. I'm gonna keep on every one of you that's on my page. Every one of you gonna buy this book, and I'm gonna have to go knock on your door like the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormons. You gonna get this book?
I appreciate that.
No, because I know what stories are in your life, and it's a movie that won't ever end.
Right.
But you're never gonna be bored because you are the truest form of the sport. You are a true living legend, and you get to tell your story before you leave this earth, and that's the greatest blessing to all of us.
Yes.
That is the greatest blessing.
That's the third person that has said that to me, that I should do an audiobook. When I first heard it, I really didn't know what it was, but that's gonna happen. That's gonna happen.
Yeah. Another brother of mine from Canada. I have a lot of Canadian friends, bro, and family. He says, God bless from Canada, gents. And he says, thoughts on Mr. Watson via George Cavallo. I assume he would know who he is.
Yes. George Cavallo, yes. Yes. Of course I do.
My brother from Ireland. Hey, Paul, you better buy this book. If you don't,
Ireland.
I'm coming to Ireland, bro. Yeah. He says, nice to see you on Action, the original fighter's voice. Hey, Paul, bro, if you ever believed anything I say, you need to get this book, brother. John Grady says, Mr. Watson, who has been your greatest mentor? I've never asked him that. That's a good question.
My mom. My mom. Plain and simple. That's where I got my personality from. That's where I got my motivation from. You know, it's and I pay homage to my mom in the beginning of this book because and not like you think, you know, I just didn't put this as dedicated. I explained how I got to be the person that I am. You know, my mom taught us how to make a bed up without getting out of it. Right. So that when you got out of it, you didn't have to turn around and make it up. Okay. And think about it. How crazy you think about that. You get out of the covers from under the cover. And as you're getting out, you squirm down and make the bed up as you get up. When you're halfway out, you get out, the bed's made. And you never left your room with an unmade bed. Now I'll leave that alone. But that's stuff like that never leaves you. And as you grow older, you take stuff like that and it becomes another part and another way that you give a commitment to the things that you're doing.
Now
100%.
this is a very important question because I want my book autographed too. He says, Bert, how do we get a signed copy of your book? Is that possible?
Chris, I'm gonna figure that out.
Yeah, he's my homie from Kansas, bro.
Okay, if you stay in touch with my man Don, I'll figure out if you buy that book out, I'll get it signed.
Yeah.
I will get it signed for you, Chris, and ship it to you.
Yeah, because I want mine signed too, bro.
No question. No question.
Yeah. Oh, Steve Schroeder wants to know what. Matter of fact, Steve, I was talking to a gentleman and a couple of people about that today. I kind of told ABC to go kick rock, but I'll find the right person to write my book. But it's not about me today. It's about the one and only Mr. Burt Watson. And I love this, because Brian Holderson out of Drayton, Canada, says integrity and honesty can never hurt you.
Never.
And see, Burt's lived by that. And so, and Paul Driscoll says the gospel truth. And Gordon McDonald says, yes, sir, the truth never changes. No, it don't.
Never.
And this will be, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to get, because it says exactly, you literally can't go wrong doing that. And then Paul says, Burt Watson's a living legend.
Thank
and
you.
My brother from another mother says, to live in the moment is divine. We can't change the past. We are not guaranteed tomorrow.
No.
That's exact truth. And then Paul, I'm gonna have your question is gonna have to be last because we've already been on here for an hour and 22 minutes. Paul Driscoll says Mr. Watson is deep and lots of pride, morals, and his values equals a champion mentality. That's why he's champions forever, baby. That's why he's champions forever.
Thank you.
Oh man, there's so many comments, bro. I apologize that I can't get to all these comments. We'll be here till tomorrow. I mean, there really is that many comments, but
yeah, and
I'll end it with this.
I appreciate everybody listening and giving comments, and I hope that you, in reading the book, you get some life lessons or some things that will guide or help your thought pattern, your pattern. It's that was my biggest thing, is that I wanted to make sure that I gave a lesson because I learned a lesson. Period.
Amen. My brother from Canada says, how about one with both your, hey, it's Burt's book, bro. I'll come out with mine too.
Well, that would definitely be awesome.
Yeah. My brother from Ireland said he wants one. So, my brother says, thank you, Burt and Don. Hey, Burt, the beautiful thing about this is there's going to be stories that I don't know. And so, and I know probably more about you than anybody that's ever interviewed you.
Yeah, the thing that kind of take me back a little bit. Wow.
I remember that one show you jumped up out your seat. That's it. I'm done. You the police. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
But Chris J. Stomach says, yes, sir. Thanks, and it will be bought. Appreciate everything you and Don have done so much for combat sports.
Appreciate that, baby.
I'm going to get it pumped out on all my pages, all my professional pages, everything.
Thank you,
sir. No, man. Bro, why are you thanking me? You've taught me the most valuable lessons I've learned in this sport. You have created me and given me opportunities in this sport that nobody ever has. So I will always hold you in high regard. You will always be Mr. Burt Watson to me.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you my brother, but you always got to have that Mr. in front of it because.
Appreciate that.
Well, I know many, but I respect few. Feel me?
Yes, sir.
Brother, I'm going to get this pumped out there. Now, only question I got before I let you go now, is there going to be a website that is
Yes.
going to be also pushing the book.
Yes. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. It's going to be, one is going to be www.therealburtwatson.com. And it's going to be on Amazon, and there's going to be a website connected to it. 100%. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, so I'm gonna get that all
I put it
taken
out
care of.
there. I think more than anything is that I want to see people get this book with interest and know that when you get this book, it's gonna educate you in some things that you might not think work. And one thing I say is, it may not work for you, but it works for me. You always got to know that. And I always tell you, Don, when they give it to you, take it.
I'm loving
And
it.
it took me 75. I am 75, bro, and it took me that long to learn that.
Yeah.
You know, because I was always scratching, and there were times when I thought, oh, I deserve, right? But then when I stopped and just kept going, they kept giving it to me, like you and like your listeners, you know. So I stopped trying to get it. I just let it come.
I need to stop, bro. But the hardest part for me is, I don't know. I'll be honest with you, is people
Mhm.
call me a living legend. Yeah, granted, I'm in Hall of Fames that most people only get in after they're dead.
I got a
You know?
question for you.
Yeah.
What do you think of LeBron James as a
On one
basketball
side,
player?
I know if he he beats Wilt Chamberlain, then he'll be
Okay.
the highest scorer in the sport of basketball. As a basketball player, I love him. As a man and his philosophy, I don't
No,
care for it.
I'm asking about his basketball, and I ask you about Wilt Chamberlain. What do you think of Wilt Chamberlain? What do you think of
Love
Michael
him.
Jordan?
Love him.
Okay. They can't do a damn
See,
thing about that, because that's the way you feel, because that's an appreciation of what they did. And when people do that with you, Don, that's their appreciation of how they feel because of what you did. So whether you and I know you're humble, and I know you don't want to brag about, you know, being in this or being that, but you know what? They're not going to just give that or give it to anybody.
I know.
No, bro. If that was the case,
Yeah, but
everybody would have one.
yeah,
If
but
that
see,
was the
you
case,
understand the real. You really understand the real Don Mcguire though, and I'm gonna explain the real
I
Burt
know.
Watson. Then we're done. When we were in, yeah, it was Biloxi. I was
Yes.
wiping up water off the floor, and Mike Vasquez, the owner of the promotion, came and said, "Don, what the hell are you doing?" Bert said, "The same thing I would be doing if he wasn't doing it." See, we're just
Yeah.
humble. We're just us. And
Yeah.
I think I have a hard time assimilating that, but that's why I got you as a mentor. You know, that's why I got a book of Birdisms a mile long, because there's a Birdism for every situation, brother.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I'll give you another one before I walk away from this. You never know how much you don't know until you need to know
Amen.
it. Let it go.
Hey, I
Never
got you,
know how
baby.
much you don't know till you need to know it, bro. Let it go.
Love
Appreciate
you,
you.
bro. God bless you,
Appreciate you,
man. And
Don.
I'm gonna
Thank
put
you.
you out there on this book.
Yes, sir.
I'm getting one, so we'll talk about that. But thank you for
And
coming on.
and halfway down the road, I'm gonna come back. You're my man, and I always do this before I do anything else. So from this point on, any interview you hear is like, yeah, well, he came to me first. That was, hey, plain and simple. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate your fans, and I appreciate you what you do for me. Much love, baby.
All night long, baby. God bless.
Thank you,
Love
sir.
you, bro.
Appreciate
I
you.
appreciate
Peace.
you too. Peace. Man. Oh, that hurt. I love me some Burt Watson. I mean, y'all need to buy this book. I mean, you see him on the show. Y'all keep asking me over and over and over again for Burt Watson shows. And Brian, you're right. He's always great to listen to. The most real man you're ever gonna meet. Now you get an opportunity to buy the book. Now you get an opportunity to know stories that I don't even know. And trust me, I know a lot of his stories. I'm going to buy this book. I'm not just trying to say buy the book to buy the book, but I'm saying get the book because you're going to enjoy it from one of the most honest men in the combat sports industry and boxing. I mean, I don't roll with fake people. And Burt Watson is one of the truest men that I've ever had in my life. With that being said, please give the show a like, a share, a follow, because I don't pay for bots. I don't pay for advertisements. But I want to get Mr. Burt's book out there. So, man, if y'all could, I'm gonna put up a post later on with the QR code again. Please go buy the man's book, and you'll understand how much he's created and how much history Burt has in this beautiful sport that we all love. With that being said, have a good night and God bless. Oh, well, let me get 1.5 hours like a flash, right, Gramps? And then my brother from Ireland, great show, the original Fighter's Voice with Don Mcguire. I want a book signed by him, and you will get that. I will get that done for you, brother. I will get that done for you. Y'all have a good night. God bless, and I love you.